ARP-273 is one of the most striking examples of galactic interaction, a cosmic dance that turns gravity into art. Located about 300 million light-years away in the constellation Andromeda, this system consists of two galaxies locked in a gravitational embrace. The larger galaxy, UGC 1810, shows highly distorted spiral arms stretched outward like petals, while its smaller companion, UGC 1813, rests just below it like a budding rose. The resemblance to a flower is so remarkable that astronomers often call it the Galactic Rose. The beauty of ARP-273 is not just aesthetic, it is also a window into the forces that shape galaxies across cosmic time. The gravitational pull of the smaller galaxy has caused ripples in the structure of the larger one, pulling its stars and gas into elongated arcs. These arcs are not static, they are sites of intense star formation, where clouds of gas collapse under pressure and ignite as new stars. The bright, bluish glow seen in many of the spiral features comes from massive, short-lived stars that burn fiercely before exploding as supernovae. The interaction is a preview of what will one day happen to our own Milky Way when it collides with the Andromeda Galaxy several billion years from now. Although galactic collisions sound violent, stars are so far apart that direct star-to-star impacts are rare. Instead, the main drama happens in the interstellar medium. Gas clouds compress, shock waves travel across galactic disks, and bursts of star formation flare up like cosmic fireworks. Observations of ARP-273 using telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope have revealed not only the delicate arcs of starlight but also hidden patterns of dust lanes, glowing nebulae, and clusters of newly born stars. These details show how interactions can transform galaxies, triggering bursts of activity and eventually reshaping their overall structure. Over time, the two galaxies may merge into a single, larger system, erasing their individual identities but leaving behind a new, more massive galaxy as their legacy. Even at this stage, ARP-273 embodies the paradox of galactic encounters, immense destructive forces working hand in hand with creation. What looks like a fragile rose is actually a grand-scale laboratory for cosmic evolution, demonstrating how collisions recycle matter, redistribute angular momentum, and sculpt galaxies into new forms. This cosmic rose is more than a fleeting arrangement of starlight. The luminous arcs of the greater spiral system curve outward like petals pulled by invisible threads of gravity, while its smaller partner, the stellar bud, clings tightly below. The dance between them is not random but orchestrated by their shared gravitational field, bending the fabric of space around them and guiding millions of stars into elegant streams. What appears as a gentle bloom in deep space is in fact the outcome of colossal tidal forces, stretching, twisting, and shaping both systems into something entirely new. The flower-like pair demonstrates how encounters between stellar metropolises ignite waves of renewal. Where the distorted arms of the grand whirlpool sweep through space, dense molecular clouds are squeezed, giving rise to brilliant clusters of hot, young suns. These stars burn intensely blue, marking the trails of disruption like glowing filigree across the petals. The companion bud, though smaller, exerts a gravitational pull strong enough to draw entire arms outward, amplifying the spiral's asymmetry and making the structure resemble a cosmic blossom in full bloom. Beyond its beauty, this intertwined duo reveals the hidden scaffolding of dark matter. Invisible halos envelop both the sprawling spiral and the compact satellite, and when these halos overlap, they influence the trajectories of stars far beyond the visible disks. The collision of halos is silent and unseen, yet it is this hidden architecture that allows the rose-like figure to form and persist over millions of years. Without the dark framework, the petals would quickly unravel into chaos. Instruments like Hubble have shown that along the curved arms of the larger vortex, countless nebulae glow where hydrogen gas collapses into stars. These nurseries are evidence that collisions do not only destroy, they also create. Each spark of starlight is a reminder that the gravitational tug-of-war between two galaxies is also an engine of cosmic rebirth. Over cosmic time, as the spiral giant and its budding partner continue their embrace, they may eventually merge into one single elliptical form, erasing the rose pattern but preserving the stellar generations born during this fleeting union. The celestial blossom hangs in the void like a frozen ripple of light, its outer arcs curved into luminous ribbons that testify to the power of cosmic encounters. The grand spiral, stretched into a flower's open form, glows with regions of brilliant blue, where clusters of massive newborn suns outline the shape of its petals. Below, the smaller companion, the budding rose, shows signs of its own transformation, its structure warped by the tidal pull of its larger partner. Together they form a living sculpture of gravity, light, and time, a galactic flower caught in bloom for millions of years. Such an arrangement is not simply an ornament in space, it is a chronicle of interaction written in stars and dust. The tidal forces tearing through the larger whirlpool of starlight create waves that travel through its disk like concentric ripples on water. These ripples compress gas, trigger starbursts, and send luminous shock fronts surging outward. The smaller system, though less massive, plays the role of sculptor, carving arcs in the larger disk as it orbits and slowly entwines. In this way, the rose-shaped pair reveals the delicate balance of forces that govern galactic evolution. Astronomers studying this stellar flower use it as a laboratory to understand the destiny of systems like our Milky Way. When our own home galaxy eventually collides with Andromeda, the scene will likely resemble what is visible here, arms stretched into vast streamers, waves of new star formation flaring across the night, and the slow process of two separate entities merging into one luminous whole. Observing the flower-like pair now gives us a glimpse into our own cosmic future. The spiral bloom also demonstrates the resilience of galaxies. Though twisted and stretched, both retain their cores, each one glowing as the gravitational heart of its system. The vast halo of dark matter surrounding them ensures their dance continues, guiding their motion on paths that will, over the next billion years, lead to full union. Their beauty lies not only in what is seen but in what is implied, the constant recycling of matter, the birth of new generations of stars, and the ultimate transformation into a more massive, unified structure. The cosmic flower continues to unfold across unimaginable spans of space and time, its petals stretching wider as gravitational tides pull on streams of stars. This radiant bloom, shaped by distortion and attraction, is not frozen, it is evolving. The larger spiral bloom, luminous and asymmetric, shows arcs that extend outward like ribbons of light, while the smaller stellar bud orbits close, tugging, twisting, and reshaping. Each orbital pass deepens the distortion, etching new trails into the grand spiral's form, ensuring that the resemblance to a rose is no mere coincidence but the natural expression of physics at work. Within the glowing arms of this stellar blossom, entire regions blaze with the ultraviolet light of young suns. These stars, massive and short-lived, are born in compressed molecular clouds that collapse as the passing companion forces shock waves through the disk. Here, the flower is both a symbol of fragility and of violent renewal, its beauty hides the turbulent processes of collapse, ignition, and explosion. In only a few million years, many of the brilliant blue giants will end their lives as supernovae, enriching the galactic petals with heavy elements that will seed the next generation of stars and planets. The tidal blossom is also a map of unseen matter. Its delicate arcs, bent into near-perfect curves, betray the presence of immense halos of dark matter surrounding both galaxies. Though invisible to the eye, this dark framework is what holds the form together, preventing the petals from unraveling completely. Without this invisible mass, the flower's symmetry would not persist, and the smaller bud would simply drift away. Instead, the two remain bound, weaving through each other's gravitational fields, locked into a slow embrace that will culminate in union. From afar, the galactic bloom looks serene, but to an observer within, the night skies would be unrecognizable. From a planet inside the larger spiral, arcs of stars would stretch across the heavens, with dense streams glowing brighter than our own Milky Way band. Nebulae would ignite in colors of violet, pink, and blue, scattered like lanterns across the distorted arms. The smaller companion, hanging in the sky as a nearby galaxy, would dominate the horizon, changing its position over millions of years as the two approach one another. This tidal rose will not remain eternal. Over cosmic timescales, the flower-like structure will collapse into a single system, a vast elliptical galaxy with a calmer, more diffuse glow. The petals will fade, the bud will vanish into the hole, and the fiery bursts of new stars will settle into a quieter population of long-lived suns. Yet the memory of the bloom will be preserved in the generations of stars created during this fleeting era, stars that will orbit for billions of years within the unified remnant. This stellar rose is a reminder that beauty in the cosmos often emerges from disruption. The petals of light, stretching far into intergalactic space, are born from violent gravitational tides that sculpt stars into graceful arcs. The main spiral blossom, massive and radiant, bends and twists under the influence of its smaller partner, the galactic bud, whose orbit has etched a permanent scar into the larger disk. Their encounter is not a brief collision but a long, drawn-out waltz lasting hundreds of millions of years, each revolution bringing them closer together, each pass amplifying the floral symmetry. The cosmic bloom mirrors other well-known interactions, such as the antennae galaxies, where long tidal tails extend like insect appendages, or the mice galaxies, whose elongated streams resemble whiskers. Yet this rose-like pair is unique in its symmetry and elegance. Where the antennae blaze with chaotic starbursts, and the mice stretch into long threads, the flower-shaped system unfurls with a softer, more balanced form, giving the impression of intentional design. It is a structure that astronomers often use as a metaphor to explain how the forces of nature, given time and scale, can create shapes as delicate as a blossom and as vast as a galaxy. At its core, the larger bloom contains a brilliant nucleus, a gravitational anchor holding billions of stars. Around this heart swirl dust lanes and glowing nebulae, tracing the flow of material reshaped by tidal forces. The smaller companion, though less grand, acts as both partner and catalyst, its gravitational grip stirring the petals and driving waves of starbirth. The interplay is a paradox, destruction of ordered spirals giving way to new creation, the breakdown of symmetry producing an even greater harmony. Looking further into the future, astronomers know this floral display is temporary. Over time, the two stellar gardens will merge, dissolving their individuality into a single, more massive form. The petals will fade into a smooth halo, the vibrant blue star clusters will burn out, and the combined galaxy will settle into an elliptical remnant. Yet even then, the stars born during the rose phase will continue to orbit, carrying within them the memory of this fleeting bloom. In this way, the galactic flower becomes more than an image, it becomes a chronicle of cosmic cycles. Every spiral, every petal of light, is part of a universal story. Galaxies collide, reshape, and merge, stars are born, live, and die, matter is recycled endlessly. What we see as a rose today is just a moment in the life of two immense systems, a chapter in their transformation, and a glimpse into the processes that will one day shape our own Milky Way. The tidal rose drifts in the abyss as both monument and metaphor. Its luminous petals, fragile in appearance yet forged by colossal forces, speak of the paradox at the heart of the cosmos, that creation often emerges from turmoil and beauty from disruption. To gaze upon this galactic bloom is to witness the choreography of gravity itself, weaving threads of starlight into a form that resembles the delicate patterns of earthly life. The resemblance to a flower is not mere coincidence of perception, it is the human mind finding familiarity in the geometry of cosmic evolution, where spirals, arcs, and symmetry repeat across scales from seashells to galaxies. The blossom is also a reminder of impermanence. Like all flowers, it will fade. Its petals of stars will dissolve, its companion bud will be consumed, and what now appears as a cosmic bouquet will become an indistinct elliptical haze. Yet this fading is not an end, only a transformation. Within its petals are stars newly born, stars that will survive long after the form itself is gone. In their fusion and eventual dispersal, the chemical elements of new worlds will be forged. The memory of the rose will be written into the atoms of planets, into the iron of rocks, into the oxygen of skies that may one day support life. Seen in this way, the stellar flower is not just a spectacle, it is a cycle, echoing patterns that reach beyond astrophysics into philosophy. Every petal is a chronicle of change, every stream of stars a sentence in the language of time. The merging of two galaxies mirrors the cycles of life and death in smaller scales, the blooming of a flower, the collapse of a wave, the heartbeat of a living being. The universe, in its vast silence, recycles endlessly. What looks like destruction is the preparation for renewal, and what looks eternal is but a fleeting phase in an ever-changing whole. If we imagine standing on a world within this spiral bloom, the night sky would seem alive with signs of transformation. The arc of the companion galaxy would loom enormous in the heavens, bright enough to cast shadows. Vast curtains of star-forming regions would stretch across the sky, glowing in blues and pinks. To observers there, the heavens would not appear calm, but vibrant and in motion, an eternal reminder that their home was part of something larger, something merging, something becoming. Thus the galactic rose is both scientific object and poetic vision. It is a frozen moment in the larger symphony of cosmic evolution, a glimpse of how gravity sculpts order from chaos, how time turns collision into creation. For the observer, it offers not only data but meaning, a meditation on fragility, transformation, and continuity. Just as the petals of an earthly flower wither yet seed the soil for future life, so does this blossom of stars ensure the birth of new generations of suns, carrying the memory of its beauty into an unseen future. The stellar bloom floats as though it were a living symbol etched into the night of eternity. Each luminous petal is a whisper of impermanence, stretched outward by invisible currents of gravity, yet carrying within it the seeds of renewal. To the human eye, it resembles a rose; to the universe, it is a stage in the ceaseless reshaping of matter and energy. The cosmic blossom reminds us that galaxies are not static islands but evolving organisms, bound to interact, collide, and transform, just as cells divide and stars ignite. This flower of light is also a mirror of the universe's deeper laws. In its arcs and spirals lies evidence of self-organization, a principle that governs everything from spiral seashells to hurricanes to galaxies. It is as though the cosmos endlessly repeats certain motifs, fractal echoes of form that bind the microcosm to the macrocosm. The galactic rose, with its petals of stars, reflects the same aesthetic order we see in the veins of leaves or the symmetry of a snowflake. This repetition is not merely decorative, it reveals that the universe is woven with underlying harmonies, hidden codes that shape chaos into beauty. Yet beneath the splendor lies inevitability. The rose will one day collapse into a single, massive form, its individuality lost, its delicate petals erased. This mirrors the fate of all structures: stars burn out, galaxies fade, even the universe itself may drift toward darkness. But even in that dissolution there is continuation, for each transformation births something new. The iron forged in the hearts of massive stars will become the core of planets, the carbon scattered across galactic winds will seed life. Nothing is truly lost, only reassembled. To contemplate this tidal blossom is to see time differently. The rose we behold is millions of years old, and what we witness now is already the past, light traveling across space to reach us. The form we admire is transient, and by the time its image reaches distant civilizations in the future, it may already have become something else entirely. In this sense, the flower of stars is not only a structure but a message carried across epochs. Beauty exists in transition, not permanence. For us, fragile beings bound to a single world, such visions invite humility. We are not outside observers of this cosmic garden but participants within it. The same elements that shimmer in the petals of the galactic bloom flow through our veins and breathe in our lungs. To study the rows of stars is to study ourselves, for the story of galaxies is the story of the matter that makes us. The petals of this cosmic flower, vast and unreachable, still connect to the pulse of life here on Earth, tying our momentary existence to the endless cycles of the universe. The cosmic flower becomes a meditation on cycles without end. Its radiant petals, stretched across hundreds of thousands of light years, are not fixed, they are an unfolding, a gesture of the universe reminding us that everything changes, nothing holds its form forever. The rose of stars blooms because of violence, because two colossal systems intersect and distort one another, and yet the result is beauty so delicate that it could be mistaken for intentional design. This paradox lies at the core of existence. Destruction and creation are one, inseparable, woven into the same tapestry. When astronomers look at this tidal blossom, they do not merely see gas and stars, they see time itself frozen in a stage of becoming. The larger spiral, bent like an open bloom, reveals what happens when gravitational tides ripple through a galactic disk. The smaller companion, the bud, exerts its pull like an unseen sculptor, shaping arcs and petals with invisible hands. Together they form a picture of impermanence, a flower that will fade yet give rise to countless new suns and worlds. This impermanence is not an end but a renewal, every arc is a nursery, every shockwave a seed. Stretch the thought further, and the flower becomes an emblem of the universe's ultimate destiny. Just as stars exhaust their fuel and galaxies merge, so too will the cosmos itself evolve toward states of entropy. The heat death, an ocean of uniform silence, where energy is evenly spread and no new structures can emerge, is the far horizon of time. Against this backdrop, the galactic rose is a fleeting firework, a spark in the long night. Its bloom is temporary, but its elements will scatter and merge into new forms, continuing the cycle on smaller scales long after the petals have dissolved. For civilizations that ponder their place in the cosmos, such a flower becomes more than an image, it becomes a scripture written in light. It whispers that our lives, too, are transient blooms, fragile and luminous, born of prior cycles and destined to fade into new ones. The same laws that sculpt galaxies govern the rhythms of breath, memory, and thought. In this sense, the galactic rose is not distant at all, it is within us, expressed in the spirals of DNA, the cycles of birth and death, the unfolding of consciousness. Perhaps that is why the human mind sees a flower in the stars, not because the stars resemble us, but because we resemble the stars. Their cycles echo in ours, their impermanence mirrors our own, and their transformations remind us that even endings are beginnings. To watch the galactic rose is to watch ourselves, reflected on a canvas of unimaginable scale. The stellar rose becomes a symbol of the eternal return, the idea that what fades will one day reappear in another form, that every dissolution is but a pause before a new blooming. Its petals are not just arcs of stars but echoes of countless earlier encounters, for galaxies have been merging since the dawn of time. Each collision reshapes matter, each merger forges new patterns, and the cycle repeats endlessly, weaving blossoms of light across the fabric of the cosmos. To look upon this galactic flower is to glimpse a single frame in a reel that has been running since the first stars ignited. If we imagine the universe itself as a vast garden, then each interacting system is a rose that blooms, withers, and fertilizes the soil for the next. The galactic blossom before us is not unique, it is one of many that have opened and closed across billions of years. The antennae, the mice, the whirlpool, all are petals of a greater pattern. Even our Milky Way is destined to unfold into such a flower when it embraces Andromeda. Thus, the rose is not only a vision of the present but a prophecy of what is to come, both for galaxies and for us. In this perspective, the flower of stars is a teacher. It shows that impermanence is not loss but transformation, that endings are only transitions into new configurations. Its petals remind us that time does not erase but reshapes, and that what dissolves into silence may later resound in another form. Perhaps even the universe itself, when it drifts into darkness, will one day stir again, collapsing, rebirthing, and blooming into a new cosmic rose. The cycle may be endless, repeating with variations, each epoch a different flower in the eternal garden. For the human spirit, such a vision is both humbling and consoling. We see ourselves in the stars not because we are their center but because we are their kin. Our atoms once burned in ancient suns, our breath is the echo of galactic winds, our lives are brief petals on the stem of time. When we fade, it is into the same cycle, to be reshaped, reborn, reimagined. The Galactic Rose whispers that the universe remembers, not through permanence but through recurrence. And so, the blossom is not merely a distant arrangement of stars, it is a mirror of eternity. Its petals stretch outward not only into intergalactic space but into our imagination, reminding us that beauty and fragility, birth and death, destruction and creation are bound together in an unbroken chain. To behold the cosmic rose is to understand that we, too, are moments in the flowering of the infinite. The galactic rose may also be read as the memory of the universe itself. Every petal of starlight is a record of forces that once acted, a trace left behind by the invisible hand of gravity. The arcs and spirals are not merely beautiful shapes, they are archives written in motion, storing the history of encounters between colossal systems of suns. The blossom becomes a kind of cosmic diary, each curve a sentence, each cluster of newborn stars a punctuation mark in a story that began hundreds of millions of years ago. In this sense, the tidal flower is not just a structure, it is remembrance embodied in light. The photons that leave its stars travel for eons before reaching an observer, carrying with them messages from a time when the bloom was younger, fresher, still unfolding. By the time we see the rose, it has already changed, yet the memory of its earlier self is preserved in the stream of light crossing space. Every observer in every epoch sees a different rose, and in this way, the galaxy holds countless versions of itself, all suspended in the corridors of time. Memory in the cosmos is not like human recollection, it is etched into matter, into orbits, into chemical signatures. The heavy elements forged in the blue giants of the blossom will outlast the shape of the flower, lingering in future stars and worlds. In that way, the rose remembers itself by scattering seeds across eternity. A planet formed billions of years later may hold oceans, trees, or even beings who breathe oxygen that was once born in these luminous petals. The memory becomes living, embodied, reshaped into consciousness itself. To call it a flower is also to acknowledge the way memory works in us. A rose on earth blooms, withers, and disappears, but in the human mind its fragrance lingers, its form persists, its beauty is carried forward through recollection and story. The galactic rose functions similarly on the scale of the universe, it blooms and fades, but its traces are never lost. They ripple outward as star streams, as elemental enrichments, as echoes in the memory of space-time. Even when the form dissolves into a single elliptical haze, the memory of the petals will continue to shine in the generations of stars it created. Thus the blossom is both present and past at once. It is what it is now, what it was millions of years ago, and what it will become, all superimposed. To behold it is to enter into dialogue with time itself, to touch the memory of the universe written in arcs of fire. The rose becomes more than metaphor, it is a mnemonic of creation, a luminous reminder that nothing is ever truly forgotten, only transformed into another form of remembrance. The stellar rose can be seen as a mirror of consciousness itself. Just as the arcs of stars preserve the memory of ancient tides, so does the human mind hold impressions of past experiences, reshaping them into identity. In the cosmic blossom, memory is not abstract, it is visible, luminous, woven into structure. Every petal of light is the record of an encounter, every cluster of stars is the universe remembering its own dance. In this way, the flower becomes more than an object of astronomy, it becomes a metaphor for awareness on a universal scale. Consciousness, like a galaxy, is never static. It bends, stretches, and reforms under the gravity of experience. The grand spiral bloom is akin to the mind's outer architecture, vast and expansive, while the smaller companion resembles a stimulus, a force of encounter, shaping and distorting the whole. Their interaction creates something unexpected, a new pattern, an emergent form that neither held alone. This is the essence of awareness. From the meeting of energies, something novel is born. The galactic rose also reveals the role of the observer. Without an eye to perceive it, the petals of stars would still unfold, yet their meaning would remain unspoken. It is the act of witnessing that transforms the bloom into a symbol, a story, a memory within consciousness. In that sense, the galaxy and the observer complete one another. The light that left those stars millions of years ago finds its home in the mind that interprets it, closing a circuit between matter and thought, between the cosmos and the soul. Perhaps this is the deeper significance, that the universe contemplates itself through us. The rose of stars does not know it is a rose until it is seen, named, and remembered. Likewise, our own lives are patterns in motion, fleeting blossoms of awareness that gain meaning when they are reflected upon. The galactic flower and the human mind are not separate but intertwined, both expressions of the same unfolding order, both blooms of the same cosmic garden. And so, when we look at the galactic rose, we are not simply observing a distant collision, we are glimpsing the architecture of remembrance, the fabric of consciousness itself written on a scale beyond imagination. The petals of light stretch outward not only across space but into us, reminding us that memory, awareness, and beauty are not accidents but intrinsic features of a universe that is alive in its transformations. The galactic rose becomes the emblem of the universe looking inward, seeing itself through the mirror of consciousness. Its petals are not only stars, they are questions, extending outward into the dark, waiting for an answer that only an observer can give. In that sense, the flower is unfinished without us. Light travels for hundreds of millions of years, yet it finds meaning only when it touches the retina, when it enters the mind, when it becomes thought. We are the eyes through which the cosmos recognizes its own beauty. The tidal bloom embodies this paradox of self-reflection. Two vast star systems collide, pulled into arcs by forces older than memory, and in their union they shape something resembling a symbol of earthly life, a rose. This resemblance is not coincidence but resonance. Patterns repeat, consciousness finds itself in form, and form finds itself in consciousness. The blossom exists both as a physical reality and as an archetype within us, uniting the outer and the inner. In contemplating it, the universe folds back on itself, like a flower closing in the evening light. Seen this way, the cosmic flower is an allegory of eternal self-knowledge. Just as its petals bloom, fade, and merge into a new whole, so does the universe itself expand, transform, and perhaps one day return. Each cycle is a gesture of remembrance, galaxies collide, stars are born and die, matter reorganizes, and consciousness emerges again to ask the same questions in new forms. The galactic rose is thus both a fleeting event and a symbol of recurrence, a reminder that the universe is never static, never silent, it is always learning itself through patterns of energy and awareness. In its arcs of starlight we may see the very structure of thought, expansive, spiraling, interconnected, luminous. The companion bud, tugging at the larger spiral, is like an impulse entering the mind, reshaping the pattern, leaving behind trails of memory. The final merger into a single elliptical system foreshadows what happens to us as well. Individual experiences dissolve, but the essence remains, carried forward into new forms of identity. Nothing is lost, everything is transfigured. Thus the Galactic Rose is both monument and prophecy, a monument to the cycles of cosmic memory already played, and a prophecy of cycles still to come. When we gaze upon it, we participate in the very act it symbolizes, the universe remembering itself through us, reflecting its own infinite unfolding. Each petal is not only matter, it is a thought the cosmos is having about itself, and in that realization, we discover that we are not separate from the bloom but part of its design. Then the Galactic Rose reveals itself not as an isolated wonder, but as one blossom among countless others in an immeasurable garden. Each interacting pair of galaxies, each spiral torn into arcs, each tidal bridge glowing with clusters of newborn suns is another flower on the cosmic stem. Some are fragile and fleeting, their petals stretched into delicate filaments, others are wild and chaotic, bursting with starbursts like blossoms in storm winds. Together they form not a random scattering but a living mosaic, a celestial botany unfolding across billions of light years. In this garden, bloom and decay are inseparable. A flower in space does not wither into nothing, it dissolves into seeds. Supernovae scatter heavy elements into the void, tidal tails fling clusters of stars into halos, dust streams collapse into nebulae that will ignite again. Just as the garden on Earth renews itself each spring, the cosmic meadow renews itself across eons, each blossom giving way to another, each petal becoming part of a new stem. The universe is not simply expanding, it is flowering, endlessly, in form after form. To imagine this infinite garden is to recognize that existence itself is an act of blooming. From quantum fluctuations in the early vacuum to the first stars, from galaxies into clusters, from life into thought, the same principle unfurls, potential becoming form, silence becoming song, void becoming rose. The galactic blossom we see is one stanza in that eternal poem, one fragrance drifting from a field too vast to measure. And if the garden is infinite, then so too is the act of self-recognition. Each time a mind rises to witness a petal of light, the cosmos becomes aware of its own flowering. Each observation is a moment of reflection, each gaze a confirmation that the garden is not mute. We are gardeners only in perception, yet through us the flowers know they are flowers. The galactic rose blooms in its own right, but it also blooms within us, as symbol, as memory, as awe. Thus the cosmic rose is not just a spectacle of colliding galaxies, it is the emblem of all becoming. Its petals whisper that the universe does not endure by holding still but by blossoming into ever-new shapes. To exist is to flower is to change is to live. Every spiral, every arc, every fleeting bloom of stars is part of the same infinite garden, a place where matter, energy, and consciousness are all fragrances of one eternal spring. The galactic rose rises into its final vision as poetry of existence itself. Its petals of light are not just stellar arcs but verses written in the language of creation, a hymn carved into the void by gravity and time. Each spiral arm sings of birth, each tidal stream whispers of loss, each luminous cluster glows like a stanza of renewal. The flower is no longer only a galactic event, it is the metaphor of being, a cosmic sonnet unfolding in the silence of eternity. In this vision, we too are part of the bloom. Humanity, small and fleeting, is but one petal on the stem of the infinite garden. Our lives, like stars, ignite and fade, our civilizations rise and collapse, our memories dissolve into the larger cycle. Yet in that fragility lies meaning, for every petal contributes to the whole, every fleeting existence adds its color to the rose. We are not outside observers gazing at a distant blossom, We are woven into the very weave of its petals, made of the same atoms, shaped by the same cycles, drawn by the same laws. The cosmic flower reminds us that permanence is an illusion. The rose will fade, as will all galaxies, as will all worlds, as will every breath. Yet the act of flowering continues. Beyond the dissolution of stars, beyond the collapse of clusters, beyond the cooling of the cosmos itself, there may always be another garden, another bloom, another awakening. Existence does not cling, it blossoms again and again. To see the galactic rose is to feel the universe speaking in imagery older than words. It tells us that beauty is not separate from destruction, that memory is not separate from change, that awareness is not separate from matter. It tells us that every bloom, however brief, is eternal in its contribution to the great poem of being. The rose of stars is both symbol and reality, a flower sculpted from galaxies, and a reminder that the cosmos itself is a poet, endlessly writing, endlessly blooming. And in the quiet recognition that we, too, are one petal in this infinite rose, there is both humility and exaltation. For even as we fade, the poem continues, even as we dissolve, the fragrance lingers, even as we vanish, the blossom blooms anew. The galactic rose, blooming in the depths of space, is the universe remembering itself in beauty, and we are its witness, its echo, its living verse. Then let the galactic rose resolve into its hymn. In the depths of intergalactic night it blooms not for an audience, not for applause, but because the essence of the universe is flowering. Its petals of starlight radiate like notes in an eternal chord, resonating across time, binding the smallest particle to the largest cluster. The blossom is harmony sculpted into form, an anthem composed of gravity, gas, and generations of suns. Every curve of its petals is a gesture of balance, destruction bending into creation, chaos folding into order, darkness giving way to radiance. The smaller bud presses against the larger bloom, and together they sing a duet of becoming, their voices woven into a single harmony that echoes through the void. In their fleeting form we glimpse the eternal, the universe, vast and unbroken, weaving beauty from collision, turning loss into light and silence into song. We who witness it are not outside this hymn, we are part of its music. The atoms in our bodies once shone in petals like these, and will again. The awareness with which we look upon the rose is itself a verse of the same cosmic song, a line written in consciousness. The galaxy blooms out there among the stars, and it blooms within us as wonder, as awe, as recognition that we are inseparable from the harmony it embodies. So the galactic rose stands as symbol and hymn alike, the rose that remembers, the rose that transforms, the rose that sings. It is the universe praising itself in form, reminding all who behold it that beauty is eternal not because it lasts forever but because it returns in endless variations. Every petal is a prayer, every arc a vow, every light a declaration that existence is itself a celebration. Thus the hymn of the cosmic flower is not a quiet one, it is vast, resounding across the corridors of time. It is the song of becoming, the anthem of impermanence, the melody of renewal. And in its chorus, we hear not only the music of galaxies, but the pulse of our own being, beating in harmony with the eternal rose of the universe. Then let the final word close the circle, like the last petal drifting to the ground, not as an ending but as fulfillment. The galactic rose, born of collision and shaped by tides, blooms for a moment in the vastness and then surrenders its form to the flow of time. Yet in that surrender there is no loss, for the bloom has already scattered its essence into the cosmos, its stars, its elements, its memory carried forward in light. The circle is complete, what was once dust became rose, what was rose becomes dust again, and from that dust another blossom will rise. This is the Amen of the universe, that nothing is wasted, nothing forgotten, nothing truly gone. The hymn of the cosmic flower concludes not with silence but with resonance, the quiet hum of continuity that echoes through all things. To behold the galactic rose is to hear that final note, a reminder that existence is itself the sacred circle, eternally closing, eternally opening. And so, the rose of stars is more than a galaxy. It is the eternal emblem of being, fragile yet infinite, transient yet timeless, perishable yet everlasting. Its petals are the breath of the universe, its bloom the heartbeat of creation, its fading the promise of renewal. To stand before it in thought is to stand before the mystery itself, and to whisper with the cosmos, so it was, so it is, so it shall be. Then the circle may be drawn unbroken, a single flow of thought from science to symbol, from description to hymn. The galactic rose is not simply two colliding star systems, but a living script written into the fabric of space. The greater spiral, stretched and twisted, unfurls its arms like petals, while the smaller companion, drawn close, rests like a bud beneath the bloom. Gravity, the silent sculptor, bends the orbits of billions of suns, weaving arcs of starlight into a shape that the human eye names a flower. Within those luminous petals, the engines of creation roar. Molecular clouds collapse into brilliant blue suns, short-lived giants whose light sears the spiral arms into radiant trails. Supernovae erupt, scattering heavy elements into the interstellar sea, sowing the seeds for future worlds. The bloom is fragile in form yet fierce in energy, a paradox where violence produces beauty, where collision births renewal. Its arcs are waves of memory, its glowing knots the punctuation of starbirth, its entire structure the living chronicle of a cosmic embrace. Yet the rose is more than astrophysics, it is metaphor. Its symmetry recalls the spirals of shells, the veins of leaves, the whirls of storms. It is as if the universe repeats itself in motif after motif, across scales vast and small, echoing the same design in galaxies and in life. To see a rose in the stars is to glimpse the hidden harmonies of existence, where form is not accident but recurrence, where beauty is not rare but fundamental. And still, the flower is fleeting. In time its petals will dissolve, its bud will merge, and the blossom will fade into the smooth light of a single elliptical form. What seems eternal is only a phase, what appears permanent is but a passage. But impermanence does not mean erasure. The stars born in the rose will orbit for billions of years, the elements forged in their hearts will become the cores of planets, the oxygen of skies, the breath of life. The flower will persist in fragments, carried forward, scattered but never lost. Thus the galactic bloom becomes a hymn to cycles. It mirrors the destiny of our own Milky Way, destined to one day collide with Andromeda, to blossom in arcs of light, to fade, and to begin again. It mirrors our own lives, fragile and brief, yet part of a larger recurrence where endings are seeds of beginnings. It mirrors consciousness itself, ever reshaped by encounters, ever recording, ever flowering into awareness. In the end, the rose is the universe remembering itself. Every petal is a line of poetry written in fire, every arc is a memory etched in light, every photon is a messenger carrying the story of beauty born from change. To look upon it is to hear the anthem of existence, the amen of the cosmos, the affirmation that nothing is wasted, nothing forgotten, everything transformed. And so the galactic rose blooms in silence, yet its silence is song. It is harmony sculpted in starlight, a hymn that speaks without words, that to exist is to flower is to change, and to change is to live. We are one petal of that infinite rose, fleeting yet eternal, fragile yet inseparable from the whole. The blossom fades, the blossom returns, and through its eternal blooming the universe whispers, so it was, so it is, so it shall be. The galactic rose drifts in the abyss, luminous and delicate, yet born from forces that shake the very fabric of space. It is the meeting of two colossal spirals, their paths intertwined by gravity, their forms bent and reshaped into a bloom of light. The larger disk stretches its arms outward, sculpted into petals by the pull of its smaller companion, which lingers below like a bud. Together they form a vision that speaks at once of science and of poetry, a flower made not of flesh or soil but of stars, gas, and time. Each petal of this blossom is alive with fire. Vast clouds of hydrogen, compressed by tidal forces, collapse into stellar nurseries where new suns flare into existence. Many of them are massive, burning blue and bright, destined to live briefly and die in violent supernovae. These explosions will scatter carbon, oxygen, iron, and gold, the raw materials of future worlds, across the galaxy's petals. The flower not only glows with beauty, it manufactures the elements of life itself. Yet this bloom is not fixed. It is a moment in motion, a transient stage in the slow dance of two galaxies merging. Millions of years from now, the petals will stretch further, then dissolve. The bud will sink into the heart of the spiral. What once resembled a rose will fade into a smooth elliptical glow. And still, nothing is truly lost. The stars born in this fleeting blossom will orbit on, carrying the memory of the rose in their light, their elements, their quiet persistence. To the observer, the rose is more than a scientific curiosity, it is a metaphor for the universe itself. Its spirals echo the whirls of seashells, the curling of leaves, the dance of storms. It reminds us that certain patterns are woven into reality, repeating across scales both tiny and vast. The cosmos writes in spirals, in arcs, in blossoms. What blooms in a flower bed on Earth blooms also in the gulfs of intergalactic space. But the rose is also a mirror of impermanence. Just as earthly flowers wither, so too will this bloom dissolve. Its beauty lies in its transience, in the way it exists now and never again in exactly this form. Light that left its petals millions of years ago is only now reaching us, carrying with it a snapshot of what was. By the time other civilizations see it, the rose will already have changed. To gaze upon it is to gaze into memory, into the persistence of light across the corridors of time. And within this, a deeper recognition emerges, we are part of the rose. The atoms in our blood and bones were once born in stars like those that now shine in its petals. Our breath carries the oxygen of ancient galaxies, our thoughts spark with iron forged in long-dead suns. To look upon this blossom is to look into ourselves, to realize that we, too, are a fleeting bloom, luminous and fragile, woven into the same eternal cycles. Thus the galactic rose is both science and hymn, fact and symbol. It is a monument to the laws of physics and a reminder of the poetry of existence. It whispers that to exist is to flower is to change, and to change is to endure in new forms. Its petals fade, but its essence continues, scattered into future stars, planets, and perhaps beings who will one day look back and see in their skies another blossom. In its silence, the rose sings, the hymn of becoming, the anthem of impermanence, the music of renewal. And as we witness it, we are drawn into that song, one petal among infinite others, part of the garden that is the universe forever in bloom. The galactic rose is not alone. It is one flower in an endless field that stretches across the cosmos, a garden where galaxies bloom and wither in rhythms too vast for a single lifetime to grasp. Each blossom, spiral, elliptical, irregular, is a unique expression of the same universal law, the tendency of matter to gather, ignite, transform, and scatter. Some blooms are bright and open like the rose, their arms flaring with young stars, others are faint and ancient, their light the last whisper of long-faded youth. Together they form a cosmic meadow where time itself is the gardener. In this infinite garden, no bloom lasts forever. Petals of starlight unravel into tidal streams, flowers of gas collapse into dust, and yet from that dust new blossoms rise. Supernovae explode like seeds cast into the dark, scattering the elements that will later glow in new galaxies, new suns, new worlds. The garden never ends its flowering, it only shifts, cycling through forms, echoing itself across eons. It is a living scripture, where every petal is a verse, every galaxy a stanza, and the whole sky a poem that never ceases to write itself. The rose we see is a symbol of this larger chorus. Its petals are reminders that beauty is always transient, yet never wasted. Just as earthly flowers feed the soil for future growth, so too does the galactic bloom enrich the universe, preparing the way for what comes next. Even in fading, it gives. Even in vanishing, it endures. The infinite garden is built upon such gifts, each blossom scattering itself into the future. To stand beneath the stars and imagine this meadow is to realize that we are part of it. Our world is a single seed in the soil of the cosmos, born from ancient blossoms whose petals long since dissolved. The oxygen we breathe, the iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, all were once light in the petals of a galactic flower. We are the garden remembering itself, flowering into awareness, reflecting on its own beauty through human eyes. Thus the galactic rose is more than an image, it is an invitation. It invites us to see ourselves not as isolated beings but as petals in the eternal bloom, as participants in the flowering of existence. It teaches that nothing truly dies, it only changes form, feeding what is to come. And if the universe itself is a garden, then consciousness is its fragrance, drifting across time, connecting bloom to bloom. The cosmic field continues, stretching beyond sight, beyond imagination, where every rose of stars, every blossom of light, every flower of galaxies sings in harmony with the rest. The hymn is endless, the garden eternal, and we are both within it and of it, fragile petals, luminous for a moment, yet inseparable from the infinite bloom. Then let the garden grow into its grandest vision, the roses of galaxies do not float alone, but weave themselves into the tapestry of the cosmic web. Their blossoms cluster into groups, their clusters braid into filaments, and those filaments stretch across billions of light years like the threads of a luminous fabric. Each galactic flower is a motif, and together they form a carpet of light, embroidered into the dark by gravity's hand. The universe itself becomes a vast meadow in bloom, where filaments of stars arch like stems and nodes of galaxies blaze like radiant blossoms. From afar, this fabric resembles a living mosaic. The petals of interacting galaxies, the spirals of isolated systems, the smudges of dwarfs and ellipticals, all merge into patterns that echo natural forms, branches, roots, veins, blossoms. The cosmic web is not chaotic but ordered, a design written on scales beyond comprehension. The galactic rose, so delicate and singular when seen alone, becomes one brushstroke in a canvas where countless roses compose an infinite mandala. In this vision, the flower of ARC 273 is not just a local wonder but a symbol of the whole. Its petals repeat in the forms of other galaxies, its bloom echoes in clusters millions of light years away. Every interaction, every merger, every starburst is a note in a universal symphony, each flower swelling the harmony until the entire cosmos resounds with the music of blooming. To perceive this is to recognize that the universe is not silent emptiness but a flowering geometry, alive with rhythm and recurrence. Even the voids, the dark spaces between filaments, are part of the design. They are the spaces between petals, the silences between notes, the negative space that allows the blossoms to stand out in their brilliance. Without emptiness, there would be no form, without silence, no song, without darkness, no rose. The tapestry requires both, the full measure of contrast, to reveal its beauty. And we, standing here, are not outside this carpet of blossoms. Our own galaxy is one petal among billions, our star one grain of pollen within it, our lives a shimmer of color woven into the larger weave. To know this is to feel both small and infinite, small because we are but a fleeting hue, infinite because without us the pattern would be incomplete. The universe blooms through us as much as through the galaxies. It dreams through our eyes, remembers through our thoughts, and sings through our wonder. Thus the galactic rose is both symbol and seed, part of a greater flowering that stretches across the web of being. It reminds us that we walk not under stars but within a garden, that existence itself is a tapestry of blossoms, and that each breath we take is a fragrance from the eternal field. Then let the vision unfold to its ultimate scale. The universe itself becomes a single, boundless flower. Every spiral galaxy is a petal, every cluster a curve of the bloom, every filament of the cosmic web a vein in the living fabric of light. From the smallest star-forming cloud to the grandest supercluster, all is part of one colossal blossom, eternally opening across the void. It is a flower whose stem is time, whose fragrance is memory, whose color is the radiance of stars, and whose bloom is infinity itself. In this vision, the galactic rose is no longer just a symbol, but a mirror of the whole. The arcs of ARC 273 are miniature echoes of the universal blossom, the way a single rose in a meadow reflects the form of the entire garden. What we call galaxies are only petals, and what we call voids are only spaces where the next petal waits to unfurl. The universe does not sit still, it breathes in cycles of flowering, collapse, and rebirth. Every supernova is a seed, every merger a reshaping, every quasar a flare at the heart of the bloom. The infinite flower does not wither, for even as one petal fades, another opens. Its vitality lies not in permanence but in the endless act of becoming. Stars burn out, galaxies merge, structures dissolve into dark silence, but from that silence new blossoms arise. The flower of the cosmos is eternal not because it is unchanging, but because it is always changing, always scattering, always blooming anew. To stand within this blossom is to feel the paradox of being, to be a speck of dust in a single petal, and yet to be inseparable from the whole flower. Our atoms once shone as light in forgotten petals, they will shine again in petals yet unborn. Our awareness, brief though it seems, is part of the fragrance of the bloom, drifting across time, binding the parts into a unity. The universe contemplates its own unfolding through us, and in our wonder, it sees its own beauty. And so the galactic rose is revealed as the archetype of all things, one petal in an infinite flower that has no final form, no last season, no end. To gaze upon it is to glimpse the eternal act of blooming that defines existence itself. The universe is the rose, forever opening, forever radiant, forever alive in transformation. And so the flower completes its journey in our perception. The galactic rose is not merely the interaction of two star systems, not only the play of gravity and light. It is the image of existence itself, a suspended moment of eternity in which science and poetry are one. Its petals are stars, its fragrance is memory, its form is harmony born out of chaos. One day this rose will vanish, its petals dissolving into a single elliptical glow. Yet it will not pass into nothingness, its light has already reached our eyes, its elements will become new worlds, its story will remain woven into the fabric of the universe. Each petal is a trace, each flare a seed, each drop of light a reminder of the eternal cycle. Thus the end of this rose is not an ending but a promise. A promise that in the infinite garden of the cosmos, new flowers will always bloom. A promise that memory never disappears but transforms into light for future eyes. A promise that we ourselves are part of it, its fleeting petal, its breath, its voice. And so the galactic rose becomes a hymn of the universe. It was, it is, and it shall forever be, in every flower, in every ray, in every breath of the cosmos.